Shut up, fool!
Stop listening to atheist YouTubers.
Scientists have determined that the universe was created by God. Big Bang.
My dog's barking again. The UPS guy comes at this time when I typically live stream, and then the dog barks. But maybe the dog just has to go poop, and now I'm stuck here. And the dog's gonna poop on my... No, my dog's never, ever pooped on the floor, thankfully. Oh, no, when it was a puppy, it did. Yeah, a long time ago. I want to review this great video that Paul from PF Chang... PF Chang. This is how you pronounce it. It's Chang. And so thank you, Paul, for allowing me to come on and talk to Andrew. And this guy's name's Chris. JimBob comes in later. And let's review some of the comments here on this. Thanks, Doug. I found this very entertaining. Best part is when JimBob says nature doesn't give reasons. Then you ask, is there a reason God exists? And he replies, a reason? Not that I came up with. Does that negate his whole argument? Well, it's just showing some inconsistencies, I would think. This was pretty embarrassing for Andrew. Not authorized to do apologetics? Tell me you're a cult without telling me you're a cult. Yeah, I agree. You know, I used to think this guy here, Andrew, was a alpha male. Because I've seen him do a lot of debates, and I really liked his style and some of the things he said, arguments he made. But he's really a beta. Because whenever you give someone with a purple robe authority over you, I mean, you're a beta. Do Orthodox people wear purple robes, or is that just the Catholics? I hope Andrew hears that. I used to think he was more of an alpha than JimBob, but I think JimBob's the real alpha, and Andrew's the beta. But JimBob's alpha 2, I'm alpha 1. Andrew has convinced me of the objective reality of personality disorder. Ooh, harsh. Doug, how do you know things? Them, faith. How do you know things? Doug, faith. Them, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, you know, if you're an atheist, don't be scared to say you have faith. They don't know what to do at that point if you admit that. It's fun. Great fun. And that's why we do these things. For the entertainment. The church hasn't authorized Andrew because they don't want him to ruin their image. Well, you know, Kyoko, you might have a point there. But I think it's too late. Andrew interrupts everyone and talks over everyone constantly. I don't know if constantly. He actually, he listens. Oh, such language. You know, some people think that if you're a Christian, you can't swear and you can't smoke and all that. But when you're Orthodox, and even Presbyterian and Protestantism, or even some forms of liberal Catholicism. No, you can do whatever you want. Just try not to kill anybody. PineCreek debating these guys with one hand tied behind his back and still owning them. No. It wasn't one hand tied behind my back. It was half my brain tied behind my back. Why didn't you try the flying man on Andrew? He seems like a reasonable guy. Because we weren't talking about the validity of the Bible at that point. And the flying man thought experiment is for those Christians who use the historical method to say that the Bible's true, accurate, reliable. So that's when you use the flying man. Hang on. Hey. No, that's not a poop bark. That's my dog Adolf saying get away bark. Andrew's at the door right now. Should we let Andrew in? At 16:30, here's the sequence of events. Doug is told that he has faith, and Doug asserts he knows his pen will drop through faith. Bafflingly, Andrew then says, that makes no sense, and directs his... Yeah. Okay, let's get into the video. Any other interesting comments here? alternative title when PineCreek went to the asylum. No, those guys are smart. Everybody in here was smart. See, and this is what baffles me, how smart guys like Andrew, I'm not sure about JimBob, why do smart guys allow other men to have dominion over them? I could understand the government, we have laws and so forth, but he willingly gives some of his freedoms, his dominion, over to men in purple robes who call themselves clergy or whatever they call themselves, bishops, pastors, deacons. That's the problem when you're a very smart individual. It's hard to submit to the authority of people in the church because most of them are idiots. Most of them. Not all. And I'm not being hyperbolic here. I really believe that. Because if you're really smart, you would never go into the ministry. If you're really smart, you would never go into politics. You get people who are sort of smart, but sometimes idiotic. They do those jobs for you. These guys are like mechanical parrots. Skylar Fiction. I'm so excited to watch this. I still pro PineCreek. Really, Skylar? You're still pro me? After all the things I've said? Interesting. When Doug showed Mr. T, I heard in my mind, shut up, fool. Yeah, that was the point. When I play those on other people's streams, you can't hear it. Some people, I think, said I was muted by P.F. Chang, but I wasn't. You just can't hear it. Okay, welcome if you're new here. My name is Doug, past tense of Dig. Let's get going.
I don't have an intro song. I would have Dire Straits Money for Nothing. But here he is. Mr.
Hey.
PineCreek. Welcome. Have you been following the stream so far?
Yeah, most of it. This has been very engaging. Nathan says because he's an authoritarian, so likes authoritarian theocratic system. But that doesn't explain why he willingly submits to the church, like as an individual. I can sort of see what you're saying in terms of how societies should be run, but like to say I can't talk about this because I am not authorized by the church. I can't imagine myself as a real alpha male ever saying something like that. The closest I could come is if my wife says, no, please don't talk about that on live stream. Then I'll say, okay. But even then, like, I do that because I love my wife. Not, like, does he love his bishops, his elders in the church? I don't know. Maybe he does. I love Andrew. Chris, pleased to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
You seem like a very nice guy. You're too nice to be in this live stream.
True. That's what I said.
Morning, Doug. How are you
morning.
today?
Good to see a fellow conservative. Oh no! I'm a centrist now. Which is true, by the way. I think he's a conservative. I'm a conservative, and so it would be difficult for us. I think we respect each other in our own way because he is good at what he does. We disagree mostly on the theistic stuff. But yeah, I would probably act and behave very similarly to Andrew and JimBob when it comes to a lot of topics, like veganism for sure. Like I throw up in my mouth when I hear vegans talk about murdering and raping and bears should be put in jail for killing other animals. I mean, some people say crazy stuff like this, and it's fun to expose that, show that. But I think since Andrew would never talk about biblical stuff or theological stuff because he's not authorized, he will talk about Christian nationalism. So I think we could have a great conversation about that, and I would have a ton of questions on how you would practically implement that. And Here's my problem. If Andrew ever watches this, here's my problem with Christian nationalism in a nutshell. I think once you say that the creator of the universe has given you this gravitas, this oomph factor to make laws, to enforce laws, it can become very dangerous. And when you are so confident that this is the way God wants to run a society, and you can't be wrong about it, that's when I have a problem. Because I don't care how smart you are, we are humans, we're fallible, we make mistakes, we make poor judgments, we make bad predictions. And you don't want to have a country run by people who say, no, I know this is the right way. There's no chance we're wrong in every situation. And the reason why I'm so confident is because God said so. Or the elders in the church said so. But I do understand why people like Andrew, JimBob might want Christian nationalism, because they're seeing, and I'm seeing, a decay in society where, like, I on my political channel, I showed some videos of people just going into stores and taking stuff, and then they're not being prosecuted, and then people take the law into their own hands. I mean, stuff like that. And then children being, because of certain psychologists saying, they're having suicidal thoughts, so therefore we have to start removing body parts or adding drugs into them or removing them because they feel they've been born in the wrong body. Like, this is where a guy like me draws the line, and would probably align myself very closely to Andrew, JimBob, or Christian nationalists and say, no, this is not good.
Doug, I converted Doug to enlightened centrism and cultural Christianity on the last.
Well, that's
podcast.
okay, because I'm converting P.F. Young. So
I'm not sure why P.F. Chang wants me to admit that I'm a cultural Christian. And I didn't even push back on him when he interviewed me on his channel. Go check out his channel. It's called P.F. Young. I call him P.F. Chang. And so I didn't push back hard. Like, let's be fair. If you're born in Canada, United States, you are near majority of people who are Christian. So yeah, you were born and raised in a Christian culture.
Hey, we're all converting each other.
Andrew, why ought you obey God?
why ought I obey God?
Yeah.
Via divine command. You realize I'm not a Christian apologist. I only argue from a secular framework.
You notice he was about to answer by divine command, and then he realized, his brain realized, this is a trap question. It shows an inconsistency on the questions prior to this that I haven't shown. It's a long live stream. And so he immediately went to, I'm not authorized. But the question prior to this was, why ought anybody do anything, basically? And it was asked, I think, to this guy, Chris, who's an atheist, I believe. But you can just flip that switch, and you can't even get an ought from an is using God. So what if God's creating the universe? So what if God is the standard of morality? Why ought I listen to God? Why can't I do my own thing? Why can't I be the God of my own life? Unless you're a determinist, by the way, all Christians are the gods of their own life by freely choosing to be subservient and worship and obey the creator of the universe. You have become the God of your own life by saying, I will choose to do this. If you're a Calvinist or determinist type Christian, then I'll give you a pass. Why ought you obey God?
I'm not a Christian apologist, Doug. Talk to a Christian apologist.
Do you?
Why ought we not have Christian?
So you're saying you
nationalism,
shouldn't?
Doug? I didn't say anything, Doug. I said that I'm not authorized by the church to do Christian apologetics, and
You're
I can't
not
do it.
authorized by the
Like, this is beta male behavior.
church. You're
That's correct.
you're under the control of the church.
Yeah,
Wait, what is this? What?
I'm
You're a
under the
puppet for the
yes, I'm
church.
under the dominion
Where's your
of the
strings?
church. What?
Where's your strings? You're
Andrew,
a
I've
puppet
never
for the
heard
church.
this. I've never heard this response from you.
Yeah, this is interesting.
Why can't you just answer?
Yeah, this is interesting. I didn't really pick up when Paul said this. But when Paul said this, I've never heard this response This is the first time Paul's, I think, interacted with Andrew several times. Listened to Andrew maybe many times. First time Paul's ever heard Andrew say, I'm not allowed to talk about it. With a very simple question of why ought one obey God?
Why?
Straightforward question.
Hold on. We're bringing on JimBob. This is not a dog pile. Andrew's got reinforcements.
First of all, let me answer the question
Okay.
so that you understand. I'm Eastern Orthodox.
Eastern
In order
Orthodox.
to do Christian apologetics,
Yeah, they definitely wear purple robes, right, Nathan? Well, I don't know how Nathan would know. Nathan knows everything.
I would have to be authorized to do so. I don't do Christian apologetics. I'm not authorized to do Christian apologetics, nor am I going to engage in Christian apologetics. I engage in secular argumentation. I'm a political debater. If you want to talk to a Christian apologist, I can arrange so that you can
Are you
talk
a
to a
Christian?
Christian.
Actually, you know what? Let's do that. Andrew, if you ever hear this, arrange for me to talk to a qualified, intelligent, wise, Eastern Orthodox Christian apologist. I'm more than happy to talk to whoever you bring my way.
Christian apologist. I am.
Do you believe that God gives commands?
I'm not. I can't engage in that.
Okay, hold on.
Do you believe God gives commands? Cannot engage in that. If Andrew's wife is watching, why did you marry a beta male? I mean, you're going to let your husband talk to me that way?
You cannot answer that question.
Hold on, because hold on.
I didn't say I couldn't answer the question. I said I'm not authorized to engage in Christian
You're not
apologetics,
authorized.
which is what you're asking me to do.
Who's
Okay,
your bishop?
I'll
or
tell you what.
priest?
Let me ask you a question.
No. Okay.
Hang on.
Yeah,
No,
ask me a
Doug,
question, and I'm gonna.
Doug,
I already
let me
have an answer before you ask.
let me ask you a question. Why is it not okay?
By the way, I was in a very cheeky, good mood that night. So, looking back on this, I laughed too much. But these were sincere laughs. I was having fun.
for me to adhere to my church, and if my church says that I'm not authorized to do Christian apologetics because I would need the blessing of spiritual father to do so,
The blessing of spiritual father. Listen to yourself. I need to have the blessing of a spiritual father in order to answer the question, does God give commands? Why ought I obey God? I need the blessing of my spiritual father. I can't imagine. Or can I? Yeah, I can because No, but even when I was a Christian, I mean, if I wanted to say what I believed, I didn't need the blessing of a spiritual leader in my church. Is the Eastern Orthodox religion so fragile that a guy like Andrew can bring it down by saying the wrong thing, by not having the blessing of the spiritual leaders? Is Eastern Orthodox that fragile? I think it is. That's the only reasonable explanation.
I think that that's an own on me to obey that command.
I'm not authorized to answer that question, Andrew.
Right. Well, the thing is that I also wouldn't push. I also wouldn't push that you had to be.
Okay, wait, hold on.
Why are we even having this discussion? I mean, you were just cross-examining me, and then you don't even want
And when
to
did I
answer
bring
how
up
you
God?
ground
Wait,
your-
wait,
When did I
hold on,
bring up
hold on.
God,
Yeah, Chris is bringing up the double standard, the hypocrisy.
bro? When
It's
did I bring up
about
God or
morality.
Christian
Hold on.
ethics?
I'm gonna mute everyone.
It's
Hold
about
on.
morality.
We
Why
don't- I
ought
wanna
you
step-
obey what God?
Poor PF Chang, he's losing control of the situation.
tells you to do.
Wait, hold
It's
on.
a straightforward question about morality.
Okay, hold on. He gave his answer, so hold on. Doug, hold on, Andrew. I
Yeah, PF Chang didn't like I brought up Mr. T.
have not heard this from you. When we use the word apologetics, my assumption is talking about theology. What we were talking about with phenomenal conservatism and all that, and like where do we ground our morals?
If it's
I have
from a
never heard you
secular-
say
if
this.
it's
I don't
from a
know,
sec-
and I'm not forcing you to answer anything. I'm just curious because
Okay, I'm going to answer your question.
Okay, what does that
Same-
mean?
Yeah, why? Never heard this before. Why now? Because PineCreek's in the house.
Same thing with modern day debate. Okay, I agreed to do a debate with some asshole over there, some fat guy. I don't remember his name.
Some fat
right?
guy.
Some douchebag. But I told
Can you imagine Jesus saying, Yeah, I went to Galilee the other day, and I had this debate, this conversation with some fat guy, some fat Gentile.
Told him the same thing, right? These guys always want me to do Christian apologetics, and I told him I'm not authorized to do that. We can do a debate on whether or not how Christianity affects culture or these types of secular things, but I don't have the authorization. I'm an Orthodox catechumen.
What did he say? An Orthodox catechumen?
Of secular things, but I don't have the authorization. I'm an Orthodox catechumen.
Catechumen. Is that a word? Catechumen? Is that what he said? Catechumen? A convert to Christianity receiving training and doctrine and discipline before baptism. Okay, he said he's not that?
I could secular things, but I don't have the authorization. I'm an Orthodox catechumen.
Wait, no. Orthodox catechumen means you're a convert to Christianity, receiving training, doctrine, and discipline before baptism. Yeah, you've had training, Andrew. You've received instructions of basic doctrines in Christianity before admission to membership in the church. I think he used the word the wrong way there. Am I wrong? Yeah, catechumen. That's what I looked up, Zach. He's not in yet? Ah. I wonder if it's because he has a addiction problem. Maybe that's why.
I could easily misrepresent the church when their official canon. I'm not authorized to do that, nor do I have any inclination to do that. I do politics and secular debating. Now, if Doug...
I wonder why his inclination is for politics and not issues pertaining directly to the Orthodox Church. You would think that'd be his number one issue.
From PineCreek, who only does this type of argumentation, has any line...
Only? Have you seen the PineCreek political show, Andrew?
...of inquiries towards that, I'm happy to have that debate. Do you think Doug's going to do that, though? No. What Doug will do instead is...
How does he know my mind?
He'll say, well, I only want to talk about the one fucking thing on planet Earth that you're not authorized to discuss via your faith. So, Doug, do you have an argument for me which is in any way, shape, or form externalized to Christian apologetics? Because I don't think you do.
I'm not authorized to tell.
Yeah, that's right, Doug. That's what I thought, Doug.
No, but seriously, why would I answer your questions if you don't answer mine?
You don't have to, Doug. I'm just saying to you, in this particular instance,
when I asked you if you were a Christian, you were authorized to answer that one.
I'm not. I'm not.
Are you a Christian?
Doug, repeat back to me what I told you.
You're not authorized by the
I want you
Orthodox
to
Church.
repeat back what I said verbatim.
Yeah, verbatim. Like this is garbage. This is what you do when you feel like when you're feeling insecure. Repeat back to me what I said verbatim. Now I think I came close, but you would need an infallible memory to repeat everything he said back verbatim. I'm not authorized
or at least
to
close.
Repeat back to you verbatim what
right.
you said.
So you don't fucking know. So just.
But when I asked you if you were a Christian, you answered that. You were authorized to say you were a Christian.
Yes, I'm authorized to tell you that I'm an Orthodox catechumen too. But that doesn't mean that I can engage on apologetics on behalf of Orthodoxy, and I'm not going to.
So what things are you authorized to talk about? And what things?
I already gave you the complete list. Everything on planet Earth except Christian apologetics, Doug. Do you have any inquiries towards anything on planet Earth except Christian apologetics?
What I'm asking is what is contained in the Christian apologetics?
Anything which is in relationship to arguing with an atheist or a secularist on behalf of their moral framework. Again, I'm not the Christian moral framework, and that's what would be the entailment.
So is that what you do with me?
Would Christian nationalism fall under Christian apologetics? This is for the person who wanted to see it here.
Yeah.
Every week, Andrew from the Crucible gave the rules that the Orthodox Church decided.
Gentlemen, welcome to Orthodox Club. The first rule of Orthodox Club is you do not talk about apologetics. The second rule of Orthodox Club is you do not talk about apologetics.
Yeah. Isn't the AI amazing with Norton, his voice? So basically I used an AI program to I cloned Norton's voice. Edward, is that his name? Edward Norton's voice. And I can type and make him say whatever I want him to say.
Crucible gave the rules that Andrew from the Crucible gave the rules that the Orthodox Church decided.
Decided. Like that little decided. Like that's unique to his voice. And it nailed it. The AI nailed it. Algorithms are good.
No, because what you're going to do, I would make secular arguments for why Christian nationalism is good, which you would not be able to refute. Your entire line of inquiry in a Christian nationalism
we can talk
debate,
about that then.
Doug, let me finish. Your entire inquiry in a Christian...
Isn't 1 Peter 3:15 at play here, asks Anthony? Well, when it comes to traditional Orthodox and some versions of Catholicism, they would say that, like they didn't go through the Reformation like the Protestants did. So they would say, no, 1 Peter 3:15 does not apply for everyone to everyone. It only applies to people who've been authorized, trained, understand, been blessed by the leaders in the church. They have to give an account, give a reason for the hope they have. That's what 1 Peter 3:15. The Protestants would say, Anthony, that that applies to all Christians, not just the ones who have been authorized. So as you can see, you can take any verse in the Bible and say, well, that's not what it really means. Because the church has authority over its members, and if it tells the members, no, you're not ready to give reasons for the hope you have, then you're better off just being quiet and saying, go speak to Brother John. He will tell you.
Nationalist debate is just going to be, but God not real. You're not going to have any real arguments. And I'll demonstrate that for you as we get into this debate. Go ahead, Doug. What inquiries do you have for Christian nationalism?
Yeah.
Is God real? Is God Go ahead, Doug. Just say it. That's all you're going to have, right?
I could say some really mean things here, but you guys know me. I'm not a type of person to disparage people or say mean things to make them feel bad. But some would say that he's coping pretty hard right now.
Doug?
No, if a Hindu in the United States is under your whatever, we haven't even defined Christian nationalism yet.
That would be a good place to start, I guess.
Yeah. So, well, why don't you define? Yeah. What I was going to ask before we got into the definition is, should a Hindu who worships a false god be put in prison under your branch of Christian nationalism? Like, this is the first commandment that I think even Jesus himself would say, yeah, this is important. Worship the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and strength. You shall not have any other gods before me. If it's one thing the creator of the universe does not like, it's you worshiping someone other than him. Yahweh is a beta god. Alpha gods don't require worship, but beta gods do. So Andrew worships a beta god, and, well, it makes sense. He's a beta guy. So you would think that if you have a Christian nationalist society and you're doing something that's the most offensive to God, the beta god, you would think the Hindu should be fined or put in jail for at least 30 days. Heck, no. I mean, if you're worshiping a false god, you should maybe go to prison for life until you change your ways, and then maybe you can leave. Find it then.
Christian nationalism is the pushing for a synergistic
I think that should catch on. Yahweh's a beta god.
Relationship between the church and the state over an elongated period of time to get rid of the stigmatization of Christians, also being able to rule.
The stigmatization of Christians? In the United States, what's this negative stigma you speak of? Aren't most leaders, government officials Christian still in the United States? 65% of the nation call themselves Christians, but they're phonies. I'm sure Andrew would agree with me here. Most of the Christians in the United States are flag-waving phonies, especially if they're not Eastern Orthodox. Actually, he says that here. It's coming up.
Instead of just secularists who seem to think that they're the only ones who are allowed to rule.
You know what?
under that.
What? An ad popped up? Did I press something on accident when I set up the live stream? Hang on. Let me... Can I change that on the fly so there's no ads popping up? I hope I don't kill the stream. I don't want ads to pop up during the stream. Before the stream's fine. After the stream's fine, but not during the stream. How do I do that? I don't see. Huh. Sorry, guys. Hang on. What? What did I do? There's something called delay ads here. But then it has a countdown timer. I apologize. If you see an ad, just hit skip.
Definition, I'm not against it.
That's right, Doug. That's right. And I never thought that you would be. I didn't think anybody would.
Oh, YouTube changed their policy. Oh, they control ads now. Interesting. Okay, I thought I did something.
Never be
I
against
think
it.
Christians should have the right to be in government. Yeah.
JimBob, are you qualified to do apologetics on behalf of the church?
I was going to ask the exact same question.
Not on behalf. Not on behalf.
Yeah, but do
no.
you not understand too the distinction that?
So hold on, I genuinely
hang on.
do not understand your
logic
response
and
to that.
reason and philosophy and everything on planet Earth is on the table. I just can't engage in direct apologetics on behalf of the Orthodox Church. That's it.
Adrian,
How hard could it possibly be to direct your inquiries other than that?
I have never heard you say this line in any conversation you've ever had.
He makes it sound like it's so easy to not talk about Christian apologetics, but yet he supports Christian nationalism, which has the word Christian in it. So if you want to defend Christian nationalism, you have to defend Christianity. If you want to defend Christianity, that's called apologetics. So Andrew, I don't know if you know this, but I think you need to stop talking about Christian nationalism until you've been blessed by your spiritual leaders. Because you cannot separate a defense of Christian nationalism from a defense of Christianity, which is apologetics, by definition. Half my brain tied behind my back.
Many times, by the way.
But everything that we were talking about, like phenomenal conservatism, theology, and all that, is
Those
that
are all
not
logic and
I could
reason
find
and
a loophole
everything?
for Andrew. I could find a loophole for him.
By the way, the sound, I don't know who caused the sound, the fuzzy sound there, but it goes away soon.
loophole?
The loophole is, Andrew, can you imagine that you're not an Orthodox? Can you speak on behalf of someone that you're not for a bit?
Yes, I can. So what I can do is, if you have a logical, philosophical, reasoned inquiry, and you're not directing it towards my personal belief in orthodoxy.
So I'm not directing it
sure.
towards your personal belief. Why ought JimBob obey God?
By the way, Anthony, if you're still here, isn't that a good street epistemology technique, what I did there? If someone refuses to answer a question personally, you say, fine, and say, can you answer it on behalf of someone else? And then you ask the same question.
JimBob has a divine command to do so.
So what? Why ought
Why
he
would that
follow
be-
that divine command?
Why would that be a so what statement? I'm curious.
Why ought JimBob?
I just
follow
answered your
that
question. He has a divine command,
Yeah.
self-explanatory.
Okay. Here's my follow-up question. Why ought JimBob follow that divine command?
Because if JimBob does not follow that divine command, what happens to JimBob?
This is so funny. Because you know what's interesting? The reason why Andrew would say JimBob or any other Christian should obey God is because of the consequences. And you know what? Most atheists, not all, most atheists would say the same thing. There's such thing as virtue ethics, but even the virtuists out there would say, yeah, you should take consequences into account. The reason why you obey God is because if you don't, you might suffer here on this planet or in the life after? And an atheist would answer the same way, except without the life after part. You should do X because if your goal is not to suffer, or if your goal is to get pleasure or rewards or a good life, then do X. You ought to do X because to fulfill certain goals of what you don't want or what you do want. Consequences.
You tell me.
You go to hell, right?
I just asked you a question, right?
You tell me. I don't know. You tell me.
Well, if JimBob does not follow his divine command and his
That was bad of me. I did know the answer. I said I don't know, but I did know. The answer is because of consequences, pain and pleasure.
faith, not only would he be logically inconsistent in his faith structure,
Okay.
but secondly, there could be some consequence at the end of that, which would
There
be
it
not
is.
good.
Excellent. Now, now Chris could give the exact same answer to you when you asked him why he ought to do certain things.
Yes, but try to remember that
You're welcome,
Christian. Try to remember though, Doug. Try to remember that just because there's overlap between consequentialism, deontology, and Christian ethics does not mean that you don't have occasionally duties which would overlap with consequentialism. That's not a good argument, by the way.
Okay, well, he's saying there's overlap, but when there's not overlap, when it's not about consequences, why ought one obey God? Why should anybody follow the commands of God? And the only answer you can give if you're throwing consequences out the door is by definition. And if you're an atheist and you're asked a similar question, why ought you do X, and they refuse to let you say consequences, then just say by definition. Or give the answer, I think it's coming up. I won't spoil it.
Doug, because if there's
We solved the
overlap,
problem.
just having overlap is meaningless. You haven't solved any problem. What's the problem? What is the problem you think you solved?
You were trying to question how do you get an ought from an is, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I asked you, how does JimBob get an ought from an is? You answered very correctly, in my opinion. You gave a great answer. And
Well, no,
Chris,
that's not-
a guy like Chris.
He's this is a sort of a crafty technique. You compliment your interlocutor that they gave a great answer, and notice Andrew's nature is, if someone's on a different tribe than him, to just push back. And I said, you gave an excellent answer, and he wants to push back on that.
You gave a great answer. And
Well, no,
Chris,
that's not-
a guy like Chris could give a similar answer, if not exact same answer, just leaving the God part out.
How?
You're welcome.
How does he leave the
That was
God
really
part
punchy
out?
there.
By not saying the word God.
So then we've moved into preference.
Yeah, and JimBob's preference is to
It's
obey
not a
God.
preference. Not preference.
What?
if it's-
He doesn't have free will?
It's not preference if it's divine command, right?
Oh, it's divine.
No. It's preference to whether or not to follow the divine command. Christians, if they believe in libertarian free will, even if they don't, most Christians would say they have choices. And if you choose to obey God, that is your personal preference. You could have very easily have chosen not to obey God. Now, you'd be sinning, you'd be disobeying, but many Christians would admit God gives you the freedom of that choice to disobey him, to disappoint him. And it's your preference to do one or the other.
Also,
Why
well,
wouldn't it?
PineCreek, the preference part wouldn't be the thing that determines, because I could have a preference of doing something that feels good in the short term, but maybe harms me in the long term, or maybe I just don't care, like that it hurts me or whatever. So, I mean, our preferences can be change moment to moment, right? We can be completely inconsistent with our preference.
Yeah, sure, Nathan, God's special preference, but it's God's preference for you what you ought to do, but it's still up to the individual to choose whether or not it's their preference whether they're going to listen to God's preference.
Preferences
Or
day
you
to
can be
day.
programmed to have that preference.
Programmed by what?
By
Well,
God.
I gotta pee. Don't say the N-word. That's it. Go ahead.
We're not gonna wreck your stream. Programmed by what?
God.
Inward. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, programmed by what?
God. I said 3 times now.
Okay, so we're pre-programmed by God. So like the Calvinist argument.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Chris, the problem is, as PineCreek already just conceded to, is that even in his worldview, everything's determined, including beliefs, which is why Andrew said, why aren't you a Christian? He said, because I'm determined not to be. But the problem, PineCreek, and I don't know if you...
Yeah, and that's a cheeky response, but it's a response that I like to give. The reason why I'm not Christian is because I believe that the evidence is not sufficient for the claim. But I do also believe that every action that I make has antecedent causes. And we get into this, and for the life of me, maybe you guys in live stream chat can help me out. I'm trying to understand why they think you can't have true beliefs or true knowledge if you're a determinist.
Come up against this is that the worldview itself, you have no access to knowledge at all. Like, it's impossible.
Yeah.
My worldview makes it so that it's impossible for me to have access to knowledge. I should have asked, do I know anything? And they would say, well, only if you borrow from our worldview. This is the typical precepts shtick.
Do you see why it's impossible?
Why it's impossible to have knowledge depends how you define knowledge.
Yeah, I think that was a good response, because in their mind, knowledge is that which has been revealed by God, or something to that effect.
Any evaluation of a truth claim?
Any
evaluation. Not even the result of it, which would be knowledge. Any evaluating, the very method of evaluating two different claims.
This is the tag
impossible.
argument, right?
Well, no, don't. It's not about framing what it is. It's that it's the consequence of. I'll put it simple. PineCreek makes an opinion, right? Opinion A.
Yeah.
JimBob makes opinion B. Now, Chris, as a third party, he's trying to evaluate between the two things, right?
Yep.
That's kind of what argumentation is, right? That's what we do here. Correct?
Yep.
Okay. So if opinion A is determined, and
By the way, I'm modeling the behavior I desire. You notice how he's asking me questions, one-word answers? Because that's all it needs is one-word answers.
opinion B is determined, then so is Chris's evaluation. So what methodology outside of that mechanism do we have access to any knowledge?
Yeah. How do we know?
Through tested observations?
That's determined.
That's determined.
Yeah, but why does it being determined make it less so?
Well, even if it was, hang on, even that makes no sense.
See, like JimBob's laughing here, but like in his mind, if it's determined, it can't be free and it can't be knowledge. But JimBob, if you ever hear this, help me really understand why. I think I asked them here, but I don't remember them giving an answer. Well, they probably did, but not an answer that I understood.
Your question actually doesn't make any sense. What he's saying that it's also under your worldview. So since it's also under your worldview, you have no way to arbitrate who's telling the truth, who has the knowledge, who doesn't, because it's all predetermined according to you.
How does predetermine affect whether one can have knowledge?
Well, no, but my question is, just because it's predetermined, why does it not make it knowledge?
Because you don't know what knowledge is and isn't if the conclusion...
How do you do not know what knowledge is, what is or isn't, if it's predetermined. But why?
You know what knowledge is or isn't.
Well, whether he does or he doesn't, answer his question.
First deal with your situation.
Okay, so let's say the question is, how do I know this pen will fall towards the ground if I let go? So here's one way we can do it.
It became really silent.
But
yeah.
Is that good enough?
No.
Why?
Begging the question.
I've proven nothing.
Remember, the claim is if it's predetermined, you can't know something, anything. I think JimBob said that. You can't know anything. So if I make a truth claim, I know that when I let go of this pen, it's going to fall downwards towards the earth onto my desk. That's a claim. That's a knowledge claim. I know that this pen's going to fall down. JimBob says, how do you know? And I say, testable observations. Oh, see, I think I get it now, what he's saying. He's saying that unless it's infallible, then it's not knowledge. Maybe that's what he's saying. So here we go again. I know that when I let go of this pen, it's going to fall downwards towards my desk. JimBob, if he were here, he would say, stop, stop. You don't know that, Doug. You don't know. And you know what? JimBob would be right under his definition of knowledge. Because I think he views knowledge as certainty, a light switch. It's either on or off. Because if JimBob's God is real, I can let go of this pen and it might go up instead of down. It might hover instead of go down. It might go sideways instead of down. Yeah, I think that's the difference. See, whereas I define knowledge as more of a probability distribution, I am so incredibly confident that this pen's going to go down towards the table when I let go that I say I know it. Could I be wrong? Yes. And JimBob would say, aha! If you admit you could be wrong, you don't have knowledge. Have I figured that? Isn't that right, Nathan? I figured it out, right? No, I think he means the reasons and mental states are necessarily not physical and causal, so don't fit into a deterministic framework. It has, but we're talking about this. How do I know the pen will drop? It's through experimentation, predicting, and then having my prediction be right, and then I can say whatever I use to say I know. We have good reason to think is I was right. It is true, justified belief. It's knowledge.
That's just a phrase that people put out when they don't know what to say, begging the question.
No.
Is
Yeah.
that good enough?
No.
Why?
Making the question.
I've proven nothing.
That's just a phrase that people put out when they don't know what to say, begging the question.
No.
Andrew does it a lot.
Problem is,
I do think that's true, by the way. When you don't have a good response to something, you just say, you're just begging the question. Or here's my favorite from Precepts. Tell me if you've heard this 1,000 times. Person A says, blah, 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 blah. I respond, blah, 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 blah. They don't know what to say, so they say, category error. Famous 2 words of Precepts. Category error.
PineCreek, if you were just predetermined,
That's because
to drop
people are
the
always
pen,
begging the question.
right? If you were determined to drop the pen,
I
and you
answered
were
your question.
deter-
I'll answer mine. How do you know?
You didn't answer the question.
Yeah, I did.
You dropped the
I
pen.
demonstrated it.
You dropped a pin.
Oh,
That's not an
no.
illustration or nor an answer to the question.
didn't do
That's
anything.
predetermined that you dropped that pin, Pine
Okay,
Creek, according to you.
let me do this then. I'll be very kind to you guys. I don't know. Now answer my question. How do you know?
Yeah, the reason why I said that is because I knew that we were at an impasse and they weren't going to say I've answered the question, even though I demonstrated my knowledge, not with words, but with actions. And they wouldn't agree to it. So I just said, I don't know. Now you answer it.
What
How do I know
knowledge is?
knowledge.
Yeah.
Well, at first I would look at what is truth, what is knowledge, right? How do we categorize?
Yeah, and I asked you
what
that
is?
to define it, and you defined it. So how do you know what is true? How do you know you have knowledge?
How do I know I have knowledge? Well, no, I have faith that I have knowledge.
You're
I
stumbling a
don't-
little bit, aren't you?
But
How do
hang
you
on.
know?
Hang on.
You're,
Pine
not,
Creek.
you're not letting me answer.
Pine Creek. Also, why would we care to justify to somebody who doesn't know what knowledge is? There's
Yeah,
no
you-
answer we could give that would be satisfactory.
That is so disingenuous, Andrew. This is a beta male comment. I keep saying beta male because I know if he ever watches this, that will bother him, or he'll just laugh.
Because you have no metric for which to evaluate it by your own
Justified
admission.
true belief.
My metric is making predictions, seeing if those predictions come true.
True.
Okay.
How about
He
that?
just said he
Justified
couldn't
true belief.
justify any true
A
belief. He
justified
doesn't
true
know.
belief.
Hold
He
on,
doesn't know.
hold on. Pine Creek, go
Justified-
ahead. Chris said justified true belief. Is that
Is that okay?
JimBob, yeah. How do you know what's true?
I said I have faith.
What does that
It's
mean?
not. It's not a knowledge.
Okay, and for all those people, all those Christians out there in the world who have accused, remember Peter Boghossian's book, How to Create a Manual for Creating Atheists? People always say, oh, you import the word faith, the definition, onto Christians, that's bad. No, ask JimBob, what do you mean by faith?
Claim.
What does that mean? Oh, so you don't have knowledge?
No, I have faith. All knowledge is faith-based. That's my position.
Agreed. Phenomenal conservatism. That's what I've been saying.
Hang on. This is getting good. Define faith for me.
Faith is basically evidence for that which is unseen.
Okay. Faith is evidence for things which is unseen. Is this unseen? Sorry if that's making loud noises. That's not unseen. So is this not faith then?
Everyone has faith.
Evidence, you say? Like
No.
dropping a pen?
No, unseen. Evidence unseen.
Unseen.
Yeah.
But
Like
you
the
have
mind.
knowledge of the pen dropping. That is knowledge.
Like for
That's
instance,
you-
for instance. No. You can watch a pen drop and you have faith that it's going to do that again, right? You don't know it's going to.
See, yeah, what I said earlier is correct. You have faith that the pen's going to fall, but you don't know it because it could go up, could go sideways. So for JimBob and Andrew, I think the difference between us is but how do they get around it? They don't know either. They don't know either if the pen is going to drop. So they don't have knowledge the pen will fall, and I don't have knowledge that the pen will fall. We both have faith that the pen will fall, even though we don't know that the pen will fall.
But you have knowledge that is
hold
just dropped.
on. No,
Yeah,
let
Chris,
me ask
hold on, stop.
PineCreek.
Go ahead, JimBob.
You have faith in the regularity of nature, correct?
Yes.
I'm not
Okay,
going to drop
great.
this bacon. I just want to let you know that.
Okay, yeah, and I think this is a lot of atheists make the mistake is that they're so scared of the word faith that they will be afraid to answer that and say, no, I don't have faith. No, give it to them. Yes, I have faith that the pen will fall because I know what they mean by it. That I assume the regularity, the uniformity of nature, that gravity pulls things down towards the earth. And so if I let go, that's what's going to happen. Just give it to them. Don't push back.
So
That'd be
what if? So when ask me your question about knowledge to me again.
My question to you
Yeah.
is that if everything's determined, what methodology do you have for knowledge?
Faith.
But faith is determined.
Right. Under your
So that
worldview.
doesn't get you out of
Does
anything.
that make faith any less?
Well,
God has predetermined me to have faith so I can make knowledge claims. Now, I reject God exists, but that doesn't change the fact that I still use faith and it's predetermined.
in your view,
What
it
would that have to
does.
do with anything?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Anything
My
you
answer
say,
is
Doug,
faith, JimBob.
Yeah, we get that that's your answer. Your answer makes no
that's,
sense.
Your answer makes no sense. I use faith, says the Christian, to know things. Atheist says, I use faith to know things. Your answer makes no sense, but when we use it, it does.
you're not taking my
What
view.
faith doesn't
Your-
make sense?
No, that's
No,
not what I
trust.
said. I said
I
the answer
trust
doesn't make any
JimBob.
sense.
Your
Just like
trust
you do,
is
JimBob.
no, it's not the same.
Why
I'm
is
not
it
a
not the same?
determinist. I'm not a determinist. You
But
are.
why is? But
There's like it's like JimBob has eaten too much ice cream and he has a brain freeze. It's like if it's predetermined, if there's antecedent conditions that sufficiently cause something or someone to do something, then it can't be knowledge, can't be truth. Only if there's this magical, I shouldn't say that word to offend some people. Only if there's some metaphysical creation ex nihilo of a thought from a sentient being does it become knowledge or a true belief. I think I'm understanding them correctly now. They need this something ex nihilo from a sentient being in order for it to be real. If it's predetermined, no. It's not real. It's not a real choice. It's not a real knowledge. It's not a real belief. Yeah, I think I got them.
Hold on. Why is Doug's point, if I understand correctly, is that the faith, it's determined that he will have faith in it. But why does an individual being determined to have faith reduce the validity of faith?
Because of this. Because JimBob actually has some proof, and Doug has none. So here's the proof that JimBob
See, now this is so interesting. Now it's going to evidence, right?
has. JimBob can say that there is unseen things that he can have faith in that are true. And let me give you some examples. The laws of logic would be an example. Mathematics would be an example. These are examples that he can indicate and point to that he has faith in that you cannot empirically demonstrate at all. You can't smell them, you can't taste them, you can't touch them, you can't see them, you can't do any of those things. However, they're true, even though...
Actually, I know what he's getting at, but he said you can't demonstrate them at all. I disagree. The laws of logic, and this is a little, that's still logic. 1t plus another t equals 2t's. Let's demonstrate that. For people from South Dakota, count with me. 1, 2. Is that not a demonstration of some type of logic? 1, 1. Let's add them together. 1, 2. Right? Simple as that.
Oh, they're unseen. Okay, so
How do you know they're true?
when he said because it would create an actual performative contradiction if they weren't true.
Andrew said evidence of the things unseen, the laws of logic, would be an example of that, right?
Or
Andrew?
the mind. A mind is even more
Okay,
to the point.
mind, laws of logic, logos sort of type deal. Okay, so Doug, what's wrong with that? The evidence of faith.
Nothing. I'm just saying that these are presuppositions.
So you have them too?
Yes.
Okay, so what's the problem?
None.
Well, the problem...
Yeah, Christians have felt stupid for so long. They feel humiliated, I think, by a lot of atheists. I think they have this impression that the world views them as lower than, less than when it comes to their belief in God and Christianity, which, by the way, their scripture even admits. The gospel is foolishness to those who are perishing. I'm perishing, so it's foolishness, the gospel. So they don't like it when an atheist like me just agrees with them. Or maybe they don't mind it, but they don't know what to say at that point. When I just admit, oh yeah, I have presuppositions as well. I presuppose the uniformity of nature. Could I be wrong? Yes. Do I presuppose it? Yes.
Our view is that you
We're all cultural Christians. We're all cultural Christians and white centers. All right,
What
Chris,
are
go
you
ahead.
arguing about? Because
What is your hang on? What is your
Doug and I,
accounting?
we, of
So
course,
stop.
we have faith.
What is your accounting for him then, Doug?
Do you need to account for your presuppositions, Andrew?
Do you?
Yeah,
Okay. How do you account for yours?
by using the knowledge that there are transcendental categories.
Okay, you see what he just did there? What he just did there is what he would call virtuously circular. How do you know you have knowledge? Well, you have faith that logic exists. How do you account for this presupposition that logic exists? Because I have knowledge. How do you know you have knowledge? Because of my presuppositions. How do you know those? How do you account for those presuppositions? Through knowledge. That's circular. Now, I'm not saying that's bad, because if you're a foundationalist, we all have to do that at some point. But I think I talk about properly basic beliefs here in a second, and that's a way to account for them without being circular.
Which exist, which are unseen, that you can only have faith in, but they still exist.
Like logic.
Provably, this is provable from you. The justification is anything to the contrary must not be true, other than they were created. They were created, Doug. That's the distinction.
Okay, that's the difference. One's created and one's not.
Yeah.
How do you know it was created?
Because it would be an obfuscation to the contrary if it was not created.
Whoa. Andrew just said that it is logically impossible for logic to be created. Not be created. It had to be created. But isn't God the foundation, the basis of logic, according to him? Isn't God logical, according to him? Was God created? Oh, I think I get him on this one, too.
It would be an obfuscation to the contrary if it was not created. It would have to, if you're looking at it from the correct framework, right?
The correct framework.
They actually have to be created. They have to be. There's no possible way to create a contradiction if they were not created.
Existed?
The laws of logic always existed?
Yeah, why can't it be eternal?
Because
past?
nothing which exists has always existed.
Nothing which exists has always existed. Nothing that exists has always existed.
Always existed?
Yeah, why can't it be eternal?
Because
past?
nothing which exists has always existed.
Except for
this is basic.
God
deduction.
doesn't exist.
This is basic deduction.
God doesn't exist.
No, so you would have to have an unmoved mover.
No, God would definitely not.
Behind my back.
God would be in another.
This is why I love conversations like this. Now, I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, that's a trap," but you got to admit, it's fun, right? When a Christian says something and then realizes, "Oops, I just said that God doesn't exist."
Category.
Yeah, that's the unmoved mover.
God's special.
All right, hold on.
Well, hang on, Doug. By your own deduction, has everything always existed?
Oh, Zen Shapiro, are you a Eastern Orthodox guy? Did you want to hop in? Let me know. If you're I think you're that Eastern Orthodox guy. If you are, then yeah, I'm willing to talk to you. I'm willing to talk to anyone.
Yes.
It
not
has
everything, not everything, but in totality, I believe the cosmos has always existed, eternal past.
And what are you basing that on?
Presupposition.
Okay, so you're not basing it on anything.
What do you base God's eternal existence on?
Evidence. I'm going to give you some evidence here using your own logic. Have you ever seen, ever, anywhere, anything
I know
which exists that was not created?
Have I ever seen something that exists that was not created?
That's biological.
That's biological?
Mm-hmm. That's biological.
So like a plant.
See, this is getting into issues like, what does the phrase created even mean? Does it mean, by definition, ex nihilo, out of nothing? Or if I draw a picture, have I created art? Or have I just transformed lead in a pencil into shapes on a piece of paper, just changed things, the location of the graphite? This is where it's fun to have conversations like this, but after a while, it becomes so philosophical. Like you have to get into these details of what you mean by creation and created and all these definitions. It becomes just like some type of philosophical circle jerk of things that don't matter.
Anything.
Well, a plant is actually formed from a seed.
That's biological.
Right. So when you say created, you mean not ex nihilo.
Yeah, it's just anything biological.
Yeah, I have never seen something ex nihilo be created from ex nihilo. No, I haven't.
Okay. Do you think that? But
and neither
you
is he.
Have faith that there must have been something which was biological, which came from something that is not biological.
Okay, stop. Hold on. Whose Discord notifications are going off?
Oh,
not
mine. I'm sorry about that.
Is that right, Doug?
Okay.
Do I believe that something biological came from something non-biological?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So as we track this back, then.
So my guess is Andrew does not believe in evolution via common descent, based on this line of questioning.
Yeah.
This is contrary to your own logic.
Evolution's fucked.
So
Zen Shapiro. Okay. I'm going to put up a poll if people want me to finish this. I'm easy, so I can go either way. But I'm going to put a poll if I should talk to Zen immediately. We got 14 minutes of this. That's a half hour. I'm going to make an executive decision. Let's go straight to Zen. So, and I think I've talked to Zen before. No, Myron, I know I'm the on-air talent, but I can make decisions like this. Zen's a good guy. His last name's Shapiro. Yeah, you got to let Shapiros in when they call. I prefer if it was Ben instead of Zen, but I'll take what I can take. See, now this is called I'm softening Zen up here. He's smiling right now. He really likes me, but he wants to come in hot, and I've squashed that. He can't come in hot now because he's laughing at me. He likes me. I've built up this credibility in him. Let me pin this. Okay, Mr. Shapiro. I just hope you're authorized by the spiritual leaders to come in. And I hope you show your face. Because a true Eastern Orthodox who's been blessed by spiritual leaders has nothing to hide. What? He can't come on? He just asked to come on. What? I can hop on, but others want to. Come on. I do all this work for you, and then you don't come on.
Your own logic. So your own logic here is saying, look, all the evidence that I can see everywhere at all times is that all biological things only.
But the room is open. Anybody can click on.
Come from biological things. How can you make the jump that something other than biological created something that is biological?
Oh, that's my evidence. Great question. How can I? Well, it seems to me throughout all my experience that material things come from material things. How can it be? Oh, catch that? Andrew's nodding yes. Material things come from material things. That something material can come from all my experience. How can I actually even fathom the idea? By the way, this is the argument against the Kalam cosmological argument. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. How do you defend that premise? Guys like William Lane Craig will say through our experience, but our experience says everything material comes from a material cause. And that includes biological life. As something material coming from something non-material.
Experience isn't material.
Great point, Andrew.
Is experience material?
Yeah, it's...
No, it's not.
Yes.
You didn't answer the question.
Yeah, I wouldn't say.
I did answer your question.
Phenomenological.
Moxing the question doesn't help answer.
Okay, we got someone in here now. Oh, it's Nathan. It's just Nathan.
Oh yeah, I've got to turn my mic on. I'm just here to say that guy looks like such a beta male. Like, I could see his fans in the audience, and I'm thinking, why do they watch this guy? He looks so weak, feminine, confused, emotional.
Well, Nathan, not everybody can be like us.
Yeah, it's true.
God made everybody different.
The real man's. Yeah, some people just aren't strong enough to accept reality as it is.
Yes, yeah, they got to live in a fantasy world, and it helps them survive so they can sleep at night. And who are we, Nathan, to pop their bubble?
And they're not even strong enough to call in and defend Jesus from your attacks.
Yeah, I know you're talking about Zen Shapiro right now without actually using his name, but yeah, it's kind of sad when I even offer to tie half my brain behind my back and they still don't come on.
Yeah,
it's like they have a huge advantage. I'm working at 50% here.
They've got the Holy Spirit on their side.
How do you think these guys even get married? I mean, if they're beta males, I mean.
Wow.
I guess there's women out there who settle, right? Like they lower their standards and.
Yeah, and if they're in the church, maybe there's not that many opportunities in terms of the men that they can choose from. So,
although they're probably Christian themselves, they're Eastern Orthodox themselves, and they might believe God has divinely led them together. And no, God, he's a beta male. No, marry that beta male. Yes, God. That's probably what happens.
yeah, it's probably their cross is to marry this man and try and make him a sociable human being.
Yeah, I can see that. Andrew from the Crucible is the cross that his wife must bear. Oh, we're mean. Nathan, I thought you were a nice liberal guy, and now you're being so mean.
No, just when it's convenient. It's all just I'll say whatever to get the views and the clicks.
Yeah. How did I do with them?
I mean, I think you did well. They're quite difficult people to talk to because of the way that they handle themselves interpersonally. So I think you're probably the best person for handling that sort of situation, to be honest. I mean, that as well, you've got to pick your battles really carefully because they say so many confused things that it'd be so easy to almost not let them go a sentence without picking them up on like something that they're saying that's super controversial or goofy or something. So I think you do quite a good job at picking the main points that'll probably actually get them to reconsider, or if not them, at least some of their audience, like the people who have joined us in the chat today.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you go, and hopefully a true spiritually ordained or Eastern Orthodox calls in. Maybe
I hope so.
Maybe Zen Shapiro will gather his courage.
Hopefully someone strong enough. Right. See you in a bit, Doug.
See ya.
To the question, Doug.
I answered your question by showing the absurdity of your.
You didn't show anything.
Question. Because
Really
you yourself believe something material came from something non-material, even though we have no experience of that.
You agreed with I called
There it
you
is.
before, and you agreed with one big miracle. Remember?
Yeah, I remember that.
Remember what was that miracle?
Existence.
The miracle.
Existence, right? It's
yeah.
not consistent. Like the laws of physics and the regularity can't justify or account for the existence of the laws of physics.
No,
and regularity.
just like you can't account for God. Why is God?
Well, God, I could argue coherently for why I believe in God.
No, that's not the question. Why does God exist?
Why does God eternality?
By the way, yeah, if you're a non-believer listening right now, and someone asks, "What's the purpose of the universe? Why does God exist?" I mean, why does the universe exist? You can say, "I don't know," and then ask the question right back, or you can say, "Through necessity, just it has to," but then ask them, "Why does God exist? What's the purpose of God's existence?"
You can't ask why. That assumes there's a pre-God.
Yeah. What?
An eternal God. Why does God exist? Right.
Yeah.
That would mean there's something outside of God that gives us reasons.
Right. Now you notice
Right.
a naturalist can give the exact same answer you just gave.
They can't. No, because nature
we
doesn't
can.
give nature doesn't give reasons. There's no,
but
concept.
Is
there's
there a
no
reason?
concept. There's
Is there
no
a reason why
concepts.
God exists?
PineCreek, there's no concepts or argumentation found in nature.
Is there a reason why God exists, JimBob?
A reason? Not that I
Look at Nathan. Not Nathan. Andrew. Sorry. I have a feeling. This is just a guess, but he's never heard that question before in his life, and it's dawned on him. Okay, watch his face.
A reason why God exists, JimBob.
A reason? Not that I can come up with.
He's thinking in his mind right now. Holy shit! Why does God exist? I've never heard that before. Why does he exist? Is there a reason why God exists? And he's thinking to himself right now, crap. There isn't. As soon as I say yes, there's a reason. Then there's, as JimBob said, then there's something outside of God to give that reason. And there's nothing outside of God because he's the creator of everything. So that means there's no reason, which means God is either arbitrary or necessary. But those answers don't seem to fit well with my feelings.
Okay, why can't I give that same answer?
For what? What do you mean?
If
Why
you
does the
posit
universe
God,
exist?
the question just moves one step back.
Wait,
If you were to ask me, JimBob, why does the universe exist as opposed to not? And I say, my mom was raised on a farm just like I was raised on a farm. I was born in Canada, so I could be near my mother. And she says shit all the time. So shit's not a swear word in the family I was raised in. But you would have to pay me a lot of money to say the F word. Or the C word. But I understand for some of you here that it's a very offensive word. So because I care about people so much, I will refrain from saying that word. That question doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, I would say I wouldn't ask that question. I don't think it's a good question.
Well, fair enough.
So Protestant.
See, he would not ask that question. Why does the universe exist? Why? Because he knows you could ask, why does God exist? But then you got so many Christians that will ask that question, thinking that they got you. But they have the same problem.
Protestantism would not fall under Christian nationalism. It would be Orthodox or
would
Catholic.
It would not be my goal for it. My goal for it would not be under Protestantism, as there is no unified Protestant church to have a synergistic relationship.
So would it have to be
with the
Orthodox
state.
Christian nationalism?
That's what I would propose would be Orthodoxy, yes.
You should call it Orthodox nationalism instead of Christian nationalism to make
I only consider Orthodox Christians, so.
Wow. There you go. I only consider Orthodox Christians. Protestants, sorry, you're not real Christians. Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, not real Christians. Catholics, sorry, you're not real Christians. He's just alienated so many Christians against him because, and my guess is he doesn't care. But I tell you, if you want this is, hey, I know some of you out there in the live stream chat right now are really fearful of Christian nationalism in the United States. I'm not scared of it at all. And the reason why I'm not scared of Christian nationalism is because of what Andrew just said.
Have to be Orthodox Christian nationalism.
That's what I would propose would be Orthodoxy, yes.
You should call it Orthodox nationalism instead of Christian nationalism to make
I only consider Orthodox Christians, so.
What about?
Yeah, there's not a hope. I mean, the probabilities is so low because Christians are so divided between Catholics, Protestants, Orthodox, and all the other variations in between. They're so divided, they will never agree on anything. So I hope all you atheists out there who are fearful for Christian nationalism can sleep better tonight, knowing that they're so divided that guys like Andrew don't even consider Protestants Christians, that you got nothing to fear, or very little. If Orthodox or one particular religious sect of Christianity gets up to like 40, 50%, then okay, I will start to worry, and then all the other atheists with me can have sleepless nights together. But what does any particular sect of Christianity make up in the United States? Like, is Protestants is the biggest, right? And they're not. Are they over 25%? And even among Protestants, you have so many divisions. You got the Calvinist Protestants, you got the non-Calvinist Protestants, you got, under Protestants, Mormonism's in there. I mean, they're just so divided.
What about Catholic? What if it was a Catholic movement? Would you support that? Because they do have a coherent church.
I think that would be superior to Protestantism, but not by much.
Okay. So I could, Doug or Chris, if you guys.
How can you be superior to a false religion if you're still false?
Yeah, I got some very practical questions about Orthodox nationalism. If a Hindu's praying on the street, should he be jailed?
I didn't call it Orthodox nationalism. Call it what I called it.
Okay, Christian nationalism. If a Hindu's praying on the streets to a false god, should he be jailed?
No.
Why not?
If an Orthodox, a bunch of Orthodox people in government decide that adultery should be punished through stoning, would you support that?
No, nor would they. So
Okay.
the thing is that everything which is within the confines of Christian nationalism is based around reformations, reforming people to society. Now, if you were to say that there could be some type of extreme punishment for women who are routinely unfaithful and neither the state nor the church can reform them, then we deal in such punishments now, just not for that particular thing. But we do deal with such punishments now for other things that we agree are crimes. But I think that unfaithful.
Yeah, I'm not understanding what he's saying right now. It almost sounded like he was about to say that if a woman, and he did say woman, right? Commits adultery over and over and over again, that they would be in line for extreme punishment.
Is a significant crime. I think it should be considered such.
But why did you say you wouldn't support stoning of an adulterer?
Well, because what you're talking about there is like the second they do it, should they get dragged out and be stoned?
No. They get tried, convicted, and then the punishment is stoning. On what basis would you say that?
I think that if the offenses are egregious enough, but I don't think the death penalty, even for unfaithfulness, will ever be egregious enough.
Will ever be egregious enough, even though in the past it was. It was in the Old Testament.
That's nice.
Well,
I'm not,
Doug.
Yeah, can you notate that I'm not
Testament.
Jewish?
Yeah, this is why I kind of agree with what Andrew said earlier, that he is not authorized to speak on apologetics. Because for him to just dismiss the Old Testament so easily and say, oh, I'm not Jewish. Does Andrew not know that Jesus was a Jew, that the whole New Testament, it is based on the foundation of the Old Testament? Without the Old Testament, you can't have the New Testament. Without the Jews, you can't have the Christianity. So, Andrew, you are correct. You are indeed not authorized to speak about Christian apologetics. Because what you just said there is very, very foolish.
Right, the New Testament superseded much of the laws in the Old Testament.
Yeah, can you notate that I'm not proposing Judeo laws?
Wait a minute. Are you saying God never commanded that?
That's not what I said. I'm talking specifically about Christian nationalism, and that's not our proposition.
I know, but in regards to Christian
who cares
nationalism,
if it's who cares whatever your critique is for its coherency?
He was about to say, who cares if it's coherent?
What's the problem with that law?
Well, I'm asking you about the details of Christian nationalism, and you said
I
you
just
would not
gave you those
support
details.
stoning.
There's not going to be anything which is egregious enough under a Christian national.
But if a woman commits adultery 20 times, married to one man and then sleeps with 20 other men, is that egregious enough? And then, well, what should be the crime? The punishment.
Unfaithfulness would not be egregious enough to kill somebody over.
But it was in the Old Testament.
Even if it was in the Old Testament, what does that have to do with the current proposition that I'm giving you?
Yeah, Doug, you are aware that the New Testament.
Can you answer my question, Doug? What would that have to do with what I currently propose right now, Doug?
Yeah, I'll tell you what it has to do.
Okay.
Christianity has to do with God.
Mm-hmm.
God commanded at a certain point in history to stone the unfaithful wife. So there is precedent, and this was with the Jews, you were right. So there is precedent on how God acts in history for a certain group of people called the Jews.
I feel like I'm being condescending to him, like I'm talking slow and very clear so he understands the point.
And so I'm asking you, why would you be against the stoning of adultery if there's precedent of this is how God has acted in certain situations in the past? Why could that not be used in the future?
Yeah, fair enough. But this is an unreasonable criticism, which would also be applied to everything bad a secularist has ever done.
His response to my response is, yeah, but you as well. I know you are, but what am I? That's his response. I know you are, but what am I? He gets it now. Because laws in the United States, at least historically, has been based on precedent And if you're going to have Christian nationalism, you have to look at how God enacted laws for certain people, United States, certain people in the past, and say, okay, the very words of God, kill the adulterer, stone the adulterer. These are moral things God said, according to the Old Testament, that cannot be immoral for that time in history. Now you're considering punishments for adulterers today. You have to look at what God said in the past to make laws in the future, because God set precedents. Precedent.
Ever in history, ever. The same criticism would be used back the other direction.
But
I would
there's
just
no
say,
God
okay,
involved
what
with secularists.
why would that matter for the
Because
criticism?
God is supreme.
Why would that matter for the criticism of the proposition, Doug?
The criticism
Can I say
would just
something?
be
Because
the
it
absence
says
of God.
in the Bible that at one point God thought
And
that
what's
this
my
was
current
just.
proposition?
He mandated this.
Okay.
What
Hold
did
on.
I say? Hang on. What did
Chris,
I say
hold on.
the current proposal would be for the laws of Christian nationalism when it came to being unfaithful? And if you think, well, but one time God proposed that, fine, you can think that, but what am I proposing?
Do you think that?
Well, I would just like to know what is
Hold on,
this
Chris.
process
What-
by which
what-
you pick and choose.
Doug,
How does that work?
repeat back to me what my proposition here
Your proposition is, you said that the real issue with Christian nationalism is to reform people.
Yes.
From the
And
inside
also, what did I say about unfaithfulness being egregious?
That it wasn't egregious enough for stoning.
Right. So
And
then,
then I
under
asked you
the
about-
system, so then under
Why?
the system that I'm proposing, which is that we would not kill people who are
See, okay, but what if Eastern Orthodox brother in Christ thought that, no, stoning's on the table for adultery? I don't know what Andrew's talking about here. Like, God clearly did this for certain people in the past. Why couldn't we use it for certain people in the future? Why would we just disregard it? Whatever God commands, decrees, does, wills, is moral by definition. If it was moral for certain people in the past, why can't it be moral for certain people in the future? This is why Christian nationalism is dangerous, and why I think it will never work. Because Eastern Orthodox people like Andrew say, no, we shouldn't stone the adulterer. But another Orthodox person might say, yeah, we should consider it as a deterrence. Worked for God and the Jews. Why can't it work for Americans? They won't be able to agree. And if Eastern Orthodox people, enough of them, do say that adultery the punishment should be stoning, if, let's say, more than 3 instances, and they make that public, Christian nationalism is dead. Because there's probably a lot of people within the Eastern Orthodox Church who's committed adultery 3 times or more. So they got to start killing off their own. So fear not. You can sleep well tonight.
unfaithful because it's not an egregious enough crime. Is your criticism to that I should because you think that God commands me to, Doug?
No, my criticism is that since there's precedent, since Christianity has to do with God, and since God has actually set a precedent for certain contexts to have that type of justice, and Christian nationalism is a certain context that deals with justice, on what basis do you reject that example and precedent? Because all laws are, most laws
That's
are
a
based
great
on
question.
precedent.
Answer that, Andrew, and then I want to make a point.
Great question. So we would move towards what are called Christian ethics. Are you familiar with them, Doug?
I'm familiar with Christians, and yeah, I agree, Michael Fulton. This is stupid.
It's a cultural Christian.
but
No, are you familiar with are you familiar with Christian ethics?
Yes.
Okay, if you're familiar with Christian ethics, do you recognize that the death penalty is only set in Christian ethics for extraordinary cases?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's subjective. What is an extraordinary case?
Okay, so in this particular case, this would not be considered an extraordinary case.
How do you know this, Andrew? See, this is where I agree with the Muslims. So if you're a Muslim listening, you're going to smile. Christianity is different than Islam in that Christianity doesn't give rules and regulations on how a nation should conduct themselves. Christianity is about the individual, the changing of the heart from within. Even Andrew admitted this, reform from within. It's about Christ living in you. Islam doesn't have that. This is why Islam has Sharia law. It actually gives rules, principles for a nation to conduct itself. So I don't think there's anything Andrew can say and point to Christianity to say, oh, this is how Jesus said a nation should conduct itself. He can say this is how an individual should conduct him or herself. And Jesus said that that he has formed governments to deal with countries and nations, but he didn't say exactly how.
Whether or not you think that it should be based on Old Testament law would not be in line with the Christian ethics.
But I'm asking, why do you reject it based on, why do you reject it?
I follow Christian ethics.
Yeah, hold on.
He follows his own feelings. He just thinks his moral intuitions are, well, Christ doesn't seem like the type of guy. Jesus doesn't seem like the type of guy who would kill and say, hey, go stone that adulterer. Now, he brings this up later about the verse about whoever has not sinned, cast the first stone, which I believe is a later addition and was not in the original manuscripts. But even then, God's talking person to person, not how a government should run a country. I think Jesus would have said that if someone was a murderer. So Jesus is talking to a murderer and say, he who has not sinned, cast the first stone, to the murderer. I think Jesus, you could very easily make that argument. No, you don't cast the stone. They should be tried and convicted through a set government type scenario. By the way, in the Old Testament, it does say that if your wife causes you to disbelieve in Yahweh, that the husband should be the first one to pick up the stone and kill his own wife. Did you know that? Which just shows a contradiction between the Old and New Testament, because Jesus is God, God is Yahweh, therefore Jesus is Yahweh. Because I was taught that is means equals. Jesus is God, God is Yahweh, Jesus is Yahweh, Yahweh is Jesus. So Jesus actually said in the Old Testament to a man, pick up a stone and kill your wife if she causes you to disbelieve in me. And in the New Testament, Jesus says, he without sin cast the first stone. It's not a direct contradiction, but there's a friction there. Jesus said, let the children come to me, sit on my lap. Jesus loves all the children of the world. In the Old Testament, Jesus drowned most of the children in the world, except for the kids in Noah's family, if there was any kids. No, there wasn't any kids. Jesus drowned all the babies in the world, all the toddlers. Okay, the room's open. I'll leave it there. Any Eastern Orthodox is very welcome to call in. I'll be gentle on you. Or any other Christian. I prefer, we're talking about Christian nationalism, Christianity. Just open it up for Christians. No atheists, call in, please. You can do that on my political channel if you want. Yes, via coda. Jesus should have stoned the woman caught in adultery. Yeah, he wasn't following the laws that he set up himself. If you want to make Christians squirm, you put Jesus into the Old Testament. Has anybody got more ads? According to Nathan, it's not me. It's YouTube has a new policy. They just will randomly put ads in live streams now. I know you can control it in the beginning and the end, but Zen Shapiro, are you still here? Are you still listening at least? I know you don't want to come on, but are you still listening? You can type in the live stream chat if I said something you disagree with. Is Eastern Orthodox the new fad, like Krishna fad in the 60s? Dr. Mobile, I think people who view themselves as the intellectuals, they tend to be Orthodox or very old school Catholics, mainline Christianity. Like they will poo-poo evangelicals just as much as I do at times. I mean, these Pentecostals, they're rolling around the floor and speaking in tongues and doing all this crazy stuff. They're just crazy, emotional, fantastical type people. No, we have the tag arguments. We have the true intellectual reasons to believe in God. And if Zen Shapiro's here, he would concur. Cameron Bertuzzi. Wait, is Cameron Bertuzzi live right now? Poor guy. Poor guy. He's built his whole life around Christianity and it's falling apart on him. He's built his whole money income based on Christian apologetics, and it's dying out. Well, you can always go back to selling. What was he selling before? Oh yeah, photography. You can always go back to that. So fear not, Cameron. Are we going to get a second round with Kyle? Oh yeah, Kyle's Eastern Orthodox, right? Yeah, that video's done well, I think. How many views has that one got? That was an exercise in extreme patience. 20,000 views. The Bible's consistent?
Yeah, the Bible's perfectly
That guy.
consistent in
Okay.
any error.
Why do you
I mean,
think you see it as consistent and they don't? Yeah. That was fun. Someone called in, right? Guy! Or is it Guy? Can't hear you, Guy. Make sure your mic is set. Gearbox, refresh. Gearbox is on the right, refresh is on the left. Use Chrome. Be smart. Don't be stupid. And you'll figure it out. I shouldn't tell people to do things they can't do, right? I can't hear you, Guy. Can you hear me? If you can, type in the chat here and whereby. Watch Jay Dyer response to people. No. I'm sorry, but I like Andrew. I like JimBob. But I can't stand Jay Dyer. And it's not even so much the words coming out of his mouth. It's just everything about him. He's like having a hangnail. People still use Firefox. Well, if you want to reduce your spam and viruses, you want to use browsers that most people don't use. I almost got, I'm really good at sniffing out spam and viruses, but one looks so incredibly real. I almost bit on it, but I didn't. Which is, by the way, while we're waiting for Christians to call in, this is why you should not take your phone, your smartphone, to bed with you. Because late at night or early in the morning, that's when you're going to make a mistake. Where you're going to click on something you shouldn't. Try to keep your smartphone in a room other than your bedroom. Although it's nice to have in case of emergencies. But then some people would say you don't need a smartphone for emergencies, you need a gun. Didn't T-Jump already debate Jay Dyer? I don't think I'd say anything much different than T-Jump, just say it in a different way. Alta Vista, that's a name I haven't heard in a while. Oh, you remember Net Zero that Qualcomm had? That lasted, what, 6 months? No, it wasn't Net Zero. It was Netscape. Right, Jeff. See, this is stupid. Why are we talking about internet browsers when I could be talking to theists? Like, this is why I'm saying apologetics is done. Was it Net? Yeah, it wasn't Net Zero. I'm thinking of Coca-Cola. Coke Zero. So maybe I'll talk to Andrew again. Guys like Destiny should learn a little bit about Christianity. He could have a blast. Because he has a huge following. Maybe I should... Hey, Destiny, if you ever hear this, you should take my course. I'll tutor you one-on-one privately. I only charge, what, 100,000. Oh yeah, an ad hit. How long have we been going? Hour 44. If anybody here knows Eastern Orthodox, message them now. Do I have Kyle's email? Probably do. Let's see if I can get him on here. Oh yeah. Okay, I'm going to email Kyle. Hey, I'm live right now bashing Eastern Orthodox. You want to hop on? Hope all is well. By the way, I'm a fast typer. I think my record's something like 70 words per minute. I could have been a secretary. And I look good in heels. Oh, I guess I should give him the link. Rookie mistake. There we go. We'll see if he gets this right away. He's a young guy, so my guess is he doesn't have a job. Should do another round with John Maddox and his crew. That was really fun to watch. Oh, this guy. Yeah. He should be saying something right now. Hang on. Let me see if I can fix that. Media. Why isn't it playing? Yeah, he hasn't done anything in a while.
You can't help but smile like a little bitch.
Yeah, that's what he said about me. There, I think I fixed it. Xavier! I can hear you. I can hear your breathing.
Yes, I can hear your voice.
Okay. We've talked before, but are you Eastern Orthodox?
Roman Catholic.
Oh, so you're not a true Christian.
Yeah, pretty much.
According to Andrew.
Yeah, that's exactly. But what authority does he have? They haven't had an ecumenical council in over a millennium.
An ecumenical council. Yeah. I mean, if you don't have those, like at least, what, every other year, you don't really have a real religion.
It just shows our validity more than them by their own standard.
Oh, okay. Do you really like it?
An atheist would understand.
Do you really like having this authority over you?
Authority over what?
Over you. Do you like it?
Well, I don't have to be celibate.
No, but you're
I
under...
like having safeguards. I like having good laws.
Yeah, I understand, but like the Roman Catholic Church, they're like the Eastern Orthodox Church in the sense that if you are a member, they can really basically tell you what to do with your life, can't they, or no?
When it comes to faith and morals.
Okay.
But they can't, not like real estate, not where you live. They can't. They can only command priests and clergy where to live and what jobs to take. But you're right. They do have a lot of control over our morals. But honestly, they can't track that. Like, they can't track who you sleep with. So most Catholics just sleep around anyway.
What do you think? Are you for or against Christian nationalism in the United States?
I'm for it. I'm for it. I think adultery should be a crime.
What should the punishment be?
I think the world will be better because it. That's not stoning, but.
Why not stoning?
Because we're under grace. We're under the law of Christ, not the law of sin and death.
Okay, if we're under the law of Christ, then why do we need any man-made laws at all? Like, why have
laws? What?
Why have a law? Did you turn off the YouTube tab? Are you hearing me twice?
It was paused. I mean, I'll take it off, but it wasn't playing.
Okay, it just sounds like there's a huge delay. But
maybe it's the headphones. You can just give me 1 second. Oh. There's a different device. I can use a better device.
No, we'll leave it here. But tell me why, if Jesus in the Old Testament commanded the stoning of the adulterer, why would you be against it today?
Because we're not under circumcision.
Okay.
So things change.
So then on what basis would you make laws
get
then?
Changed over time.
Yeah, but like I said to Andrew, we can use precedent that God himself did to certain people in the past. On what basis would you make certain laws?
Yeah, adultery hurts people. It hurts children. It hurts society. It lawyers take advantage of people. It's corruption. So I think it should be illegal in most cases, and that's based on Christian values. But PineCreek, you make laws based on secular views. So
Yeah.
You're for nationalism too. If you're for any laws, you people impose their
I'll
own
give you that.
worldview, their secular worldview into these laws.
Yeah, you're right. But the problem I see with Christian nationalism is that it gives people an extra confidence that what they're doing is absolutely correct because God's on their side and telling them to do it.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And you imagine a country.
But that's if
Imagine, I know there's a delay. I know, so we got to kind of wait for each other. But imagine a country that believes in a false god, but they're so confident that their false god told them to go conquer the United States or any other nation that they go in with confidence and do it, or at least try, because their God said so. They believe. To me, Christian nationalism is similar in that aspect, that you kind of. If humans make laws, that's one thing. But if humans believe that the creator of the universe is telling them to do X, then they're really passionate about it.
Yeah, that's just a human problem. That'll happen regardless. Because Joseph Stalin thought that way. Hitler thought that way. Mao thought that way. They thought they were the absolute authority. So I think there's crazies on both sides.
You know what? I don't disagree with you. I think
it'll happen regardless.
Yeah. I agree with you that you don't necessarily need a God concept in order to do that. But what I think is similar to religion, Christian nationalism, and let's say Stalin, is that the people worshipped Stalin, or maybe that's too strong of a word, but they were also religious minded and unquestionably just did what Stalin did or commanded. I guess out of fear, I don't know, maybe out of reward. But it's the same type of religious thinking of not questioning your leaders.
That is true. That is definitely true. Humanity grows, and I think both religious people and secular people have grown out of that. You're giving hypothetical that it could happen, but most of us, Christianity really has grown out of it. I think Islam has not grown out of it. And even in the Bible, you do have genocide in the Old Testament, but I mean that hasn't happened in thousands of years. I don't think any Christian today is thinking of committing genocide.
So how exactly is Christian nationalism different than secularism? Did you hear my question?
We have divine revelation.
Okay, this is what I'm getting at.
We haven't. There is a difference.
Give me specific examples of the difference between secularism and Christian nationalism.
Okay. I can only speak from my church. We have a divine insight into human sexuality. So we know why contraception is wrong. We're not just making it up. So we have a divine explanation as to why these things are immoral, why contraception would be immoral, why adultery is immoral, why fornication is immoral.
Okay.
It can't really be taken away like, oh, I disagree with you.
Are there instances where this divine revelation is at odds with, say, with human suffering? So let's say contraception actually saved a certain percentage of mothers' lives. Right now it's very low because of our technology, but let's say by using contraception, you can save 1 million women's lives because they don't get pregnant and they don't die from the pregnancy. This is a hypothetical. Would you be more for contraception now because it saves women's lives?
Wow. Missing some context there.
Tough question.
But I'll try to be honest. Yeah. No, if it saves lives, the gospel is about saving life. Our Christian morals would say saving life is a priority.
Yep.
So yeah, but we would say you don't need contraception if you have abstinence. So just be abstinent.
Okay.
It'll save even millions of more lives.
Okay. And
why sleep around if you're not going to have kids, if it's risking things?
yeah, I agree. Like it's I think it's impossible to get an STD if you don't sleep around, if you never have sex. But the argument the secularists would make is that
Correct.
that you're being unreasonable and that kids are going to do what kids are going to do.
Yeah, they most atheists I hear say no, teenagers should be able to sleep around. It's their body. Let teenagers sleep around. I slept around. Let mothers walk out on their families, or let fathers walk out on their families, divorce for any reason. That causes so much harm. So Christian laws would help those individuals' well-being.
Okay, and what about the women who just they want to have sex with their husband, but they don't want to get pregnant?
Oh, yeah. According to Catholic theology, that goes against what a marriage is. You have to be open to life. Because it violates what marriage is, what sex is.
So do you believe, does the Catholic Church teach does the Catholic Church teach that husband and wife can't have sex for fun, pleasure?
They can have they can do it for fun and pleasure. It has to be open. The possibility has to be open to life. No rubber, no pills. You could do it when you're pregnant, right? Because you already had the baby. But when you say that you can get married but choose not to have children, you're violating what it is. You're violating its very purpose and its very nature. So it's a distortion of sex. How would I impose that as a Christian nationalist? That would take a lot of authoritarianism.
But don't you think it's better, like as our societies have progressed around the world, you notice that reproduction rates drop. So as people become more educated, higher standard of living, people have fewer kids, and they choose to have fewer kids, and they use contraception. They still want to have sex, but they don't want to have kids. What's so bad about that?
It's immoral. I would say it's immoral.
Because
but
God said so.
Doesn't mean it's dangerous to society. Although having less kids is overall a danger. Even Elon Musk admits it, that we're having less kids, so we're gonna destroy civilization like that. So
Yeah,
I
but
think a law that would
you know
ban
what?
contraception.
The delay is like a full 5 seconds. So can you try refreshing, and we'll see if that makes it better. So just hit the refresh button, you'll come right back in. Like I like coitus. Who doesn't? Coitus is like golf. When it's good, it's really good, and when it's bad, it's still pretty good. So if you like lots of coitus, you have to be open to having a child each time. And when women use the rhythm method, they gauge their temperature, are they kind of subverting God and being immoral by, I know these 3 days of the month, the odds of me getting pregnant is basically zero. So let's only have coitus those 3 days. But God knows that you're choosing those 3 days, and so maybe you're still being immoral, even if you don't use contraception, but you try to trick God and say, I want the coitus for pleasure, not for reproduction. And what about mutual masturbation? Is that immoral? Like, can you reach orgasm without intercourse? And if you're under 18, tell your mom you're here. Because we're talking alpha male stuff right now. You were supposed to hit the refresh button and you'd come right back in, but he pressed the exit button. Anyhow, someone else can call in, or I'll wrap it up. But yeah, his answer I've heard before, that the intent of intercourse is to have children biologically, and so if you do it for any other reason like pleasure without wanting kids, you're going against nature, and going against nature is immoral. But the bottom line is, I think our societies get stronger if we just don't pop out babies left and right. For people who can't afford them, especially. Hey, guest.
It's me again.
Oh, okay. Hey, I think it's better now.
Yeah, I just used a different device.
Okay. So where we left it is, I think it's better for society to control reproduction, because you're against divorce, I'm against divorce, right? And
yes.
And you know what the number one predictor of divorce is?
Finances?
Yes. Do you know what is the number one thing that causes a stress in finances?
Children?
Yes. You're 2 for 2, Xavier. Yeah. And so by controlling reproduction, you control finances. By controlling finances, you control divorce. By controlling divorce, you'll have happier societies.
Wow. But if we give a tax exemption to parents who have children and improve their finances, like they do in Hungary, more people would have children, and single people would have more difficult lives. So that's one way to kind of control the reproductive rate in a healthy manner.
Like, hey, I'm an atheist who thinks that one of the best ways to get hope, meaning, and purpose is through having children. But I also say that you need to be able to afford your own children. Try not to be dependent on the government or others to raise them, because they're your children, not the government's. And so my guess is you would agree, and we'd be like-minded on all this. But the fact of the matter is, every time I want to have sex or someone wants to have sex with their wives, and you already have, let's say, 3 kids, and you don't want 8, 9, 10, or 11. Like, what is so bad about contraception?
Yeah. I mean, it's easy. It's really because my religion teaches it. I can just try to explain why the religion believes it's immoral. Because when you say bad, I think that word is not helpful. I would say it's immoral.
Right, and you think it's immoral because that's what the church teaches. And the reason why the church teaches that is because you think it goes against the natural order of things. Am I right?
Yeah, it violates the purpose and the meaning of sex. It's a distortion of sex.
Yeah.
And when you distort things in nature, you're kind of like dehumanizing yourself. You're distorting how nature functions. How nature is.
I'm a naturalist.
So it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, I'm a naturalist, and so I agree. Like, the main reason why we evolved to have desires for sex is to reproduce. So I kind of agree with you here. But I do think that it becomes kind of silly that we can't use methods to control and plan and make better decisions. Like, for example, you say contraception is immoral, but what if a woman says, "Oh, I know my ovulation cycle, and I know these 3 days of the month, the odds of me getting pregnant is 0, so we're only going to have coitus those 3 days because I don't want any more kids." How is that any different than contraception?
Because what you just mentioned is the church's preferred method of prolonging pregnancy, right? Withholding pregnancy. It doesn't violate the body. It doesn't violate the body. It doesn't violate the relationship between husband and wife.
But what's the difference between doing that as a form of contraception and putting on a rubber thing on your penis?
Okay. Contraception. You're going against conception.
So you're doing that with the rhythm method.
You're not.
You are.
You're not going against conception. You're obeying the body's natural rhythms. You're going in line with the body's natural.
No, you're going against it. You're fooling God into thinking that everything's fine, but really you're tricking God and saying, "I know coitus, intercourse, is for reproduction, but we're going to trick God here, and we're going to have coitus when we know we can't reproduce."
Because that cycle was created by God.
I know, but you're using that cycle to your advantage to not reproduce, but you're still having coitus. You are doing the natural thing of intercourse, but with no chance or very, very little chance of getting pregnant, which is going against the nature of things. You're having sex for pleasure instead of sex for reproduction. You know what I'm saying is true, Xavier.
I know. I've heard the Catholic teaching of that there is a difference. I'm trying to remember to my my premarital classes that they explain why it's different.
Yeah.
One, you're including something that prevents it, that is created to prevent pregnancy. Period. People use it during dating. It has nothing to do with marriage. The other one, spouses get together. They count their cycle. They withhold sex during certain times of the month, so they're more in coordination together. So one is a more natural process than the other. That's all I can remember.
Yeah.
One is not a violation of like.
Did they tell you that masturbation is wrong?
It's a grave disorder.
So if a Catholic man and a Catholic woman who are married pleasure each other but don't have intercourse and they both reach orgasm, that's a sin? Is that immoral?
You know, there's a document about it. They say it's gravely disordered, but they don't go outright say it's a mortal sin that you have to confess.
I think they're kind of forced to say that's a sin because they are reaching orgasm. The man's spilling his seed. The woman's the woman's screaming, "My God, my God!" and yet there's absolutely no chance for reproduction.
No, you're right. It is. Most Catholics, most moral theologians interpret that as sin because all all the semen has to go within the woman. That's the difference. All the semen has to go inside the woman. That's why rubber would be sinful.
The semen has to go in the woman.
Yes, all sexual acts have to lead to climax.
What if it goes through? What if it goes through? You can put semen into a woman, but not through the vagina.
No, it has to be through that. But
See, like this is nuts to me because nowhere in the Bible does it say that.
I know, but we're not Bible only. We draw inspiration from the Bible.
Are you saying that? Are you saying the Pope got this? He closed his eyes one day and he felt a revelation from God saying, "All semen must go into a woman."
The church throughout the ages, as revelation grows and we grow in our knowledge of God and nature, we come up with a process of discovering sacred tradition and sacred sacred knowledge.
This is what I think is happening. You tell me if you agree or disagree. A bunch of guys who are Roman Catholics, long time ago, started thinking about these things and thought, you know what, having kids is good. They probably agreed with me, like it gives you hope, meaning, and purpose. And kids and young adults sleeping around just for fun and pleasure is bad because then you get unwanted babies and then you get diseases. And they said, this is bad. We don't want that. So we're going to say that this is the natural order of things and what God intended and wants. And if you do these bad behaviors, you're being immoral. And they're just saying that this is what God wants. When really all they're trying to do is be like me. They're trying to be like me and just say, hey, let's have a better society. But instead of saying God said this, why don't we just think about it and say, hey, isn't it better to use contraception in the form of a rubber or different types of sex or mutual masturbation? And so, like, do you have kids?
I do.
Okay, I do too. And here's a scenario. Would you rather I have a daughter. Do you have a daughter?
I have a son and a daughter, yes.
Yeah, that's what I have. I have a son and daughter. Like, if my daughter was going to have sex with a boy, I much rather have it in the form of mutual masturbation or the semen going elsewhere, not in her, because I know she's not ready and doesn't want a baby. Now, given that scenario where you know they're going to reach orgasm, both of them, what would you, as a dad, rather have? That penis go into her vagina or outside?
Abstinence.
No, that's not the question, Xavier. In this hypothetical,
okay,
your daughter and the boy are going to reach orgasm.
Okay.
What would you rather have? Intercourse, sexual intercourse, or mutual masturbation?
Mutual masturbation.
Yes.
It doesn't risk pregnancy.
Right.
It doesn't risk STDs.
So given and I think you and I agreed, even though I'm a naturalist and you're a Catholic, you and I agreed that humans have these natural desires to reach orgasm. Agreed?
Yes.
So if it's going to happen, we ought to educate our kids that, hey, you don't have to have intercourse to have fun. You can have fun other ways. Now you as a Catholic can say, you should have at least 20 King James Bibles between you at each time. But if it's going to happen in the back seat of a Camaro, then you're better off, whatever you do, son, whatever you do, daughter, one of you keeps your pants on. But you can still have fun.
Yeah, it's going to happen anyway. I mean.
Yeah, and so if they follow that advice, guess what? No abortions. Right?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And they can still reach orgasm. They can still have fun.
And they'll just go to confession, and then they'll be forgiven anyway.
Yeah, go to confession, they'll be forgiven. And odds are good chance they'll still go to heaven.
You're finding the loopholes through the theology.
Well, see, the problem here, Xavier, is you haven't been authorized by spiritual leaders to talk to me, and that's why you're having problems.
Oh my goodness.
Even if the Pope were here, Xavier, I could still tie half my brain behind my back to make it fair.
But that's the lesser of two evils argument.
Why is it evil?
Self-control.
Why is it evil to reach orgasm?
If people had if just real quick, if we promoted abstinence like a legitimate option, not just say it, but actually like socially, this is the most acceptable way until marriage. People, that rape would go down. Please try. I'm asking you, what you could think that rape would go down, self-control would go down, cheating will go down, and
self-control would go down.
I'm sorry, we would have more self-control, and all these horrible actions connected to sex would go down.
I agree with you. If everybody were as strong as you and me and could do abstinence only, yeah, you would have no abortions, rape would go down. Now the desire would still be in them, but
we will control our desires better.
Yeah, if everybody were self-controlled, all these bad things, STDs, abortions, unwanted pregnancies would go away.
Sexual assault.
I agree with you.
Pornography and OnlyFans. So,
well, hang on. I'm going to make an argument for you right now. It has one premise, so we have to agree on the premise. And the premise is that we humans, most of us, have a very strong desire to reach orgasm, to have sex. Do you agree with that premise? Okay.
I do.
So imagine the years 1990 and you and I meet and I say to you, Xavier, did you hear about all this online free porn? I mean, it's going to be everywhere. It's just starting now, 1990. I predict, Xavier, that by the year 2000, everybody will have free porn in their house. By 2010, for sure. Then I ask you this question. What do you think that will do to violence against women in the United States? Do you think it will go up, down, or stay the same now that this free porn's coming?
Oh, violence against women.
Yeah, I'm asking this question in 1990.
Right. I think, I don't have data. I think the violence would increase.
Okay.
Indirectly.
You know what happened in the United States?
It went down?
It went down.
Wow. By a lot?
I'm trying to bring it up here for you now.
It went down. Wow.
So isn't it interesting? Now, correlation is not causation. I'm sure some Christians are going to be screaming that in the comments.
That's boring. I mean,
so 1990, this goes at 93, but the introduction of online porn started a little earlier and it dropped and now it's kind of plateaued. My theory is
magazines in the 90s.
My theory is, Xavier, that there are men out there with very high T counts, very aggressive, full of testosterone, full of energy, but because they don't want to go to jail for the rest of their life or kill someone, they go and they masturbate to online porn 3 times a day. So I can't prove this, but my theory is that porn has actually saved women's lives. And
wow.
So if any porn stars listening right now, you're doing the Lord's work.
Wow.
Yeah, tell that to your spiritual leaders in the Catholic Church.
Ay. So it's an outlet. It's like a statement.
It's an outlet, like, yeah.
The lesser of two evils. Wow.
But why is it evil to reach orgasm?
Apart from mutual connection with a committed spouse, So it's not evil just to commit or just to reach orgasm. It's orgasm apart from the sexual act.
Right. Why is that bad? If my 17-year-old son masturbates, why is that evil in your view? Or is it evil? Is it immoral?
Honestly, I'm trying to be an honest Christian. If there was no God and it's just nature, why is it evil?
Yeah.
Like, why is it bad?
Do you have any answer? Like, apart from God, can you think of any answer that would say, like, I can think of some answers. So imagine you're an atheist like I am. I could say, well, masturbation could be bad because it can become addictive, and then your son might slack on his homework, and it'll get in the way of relationships with other people. He might desire to talk to girls less and make and take initiative, because why go through the risk of rejection when he can just go home and masturbate to porn?
I've heard that it
Yeah.
ruins your stimulation. It ruins your senses, your stimulation, so that when you finally do engage in intercourse, it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
It kind of distorts when you try to have sex.
Now, if a Roman Catholic were to give me that argument, I would respect it. But to say because God said so is not good enough. I mean, even if I did believe in God, I think it's not good enough. There has to be a reason behind it. But to say that if you accept that argument that masturbation can be a problem, you can grant that, but I think you'd be silly to say that all masturbation is immoral. Like, of course not. Like, if a person just, if my arm's itchy, you scratch it, right? If you do that like once a week, twice a week.
If you're in the military and you're deployed,
Yeah, think about the men who fight for our freedoms. To tell them what they're doing in the barracks is evil.
To be fair to the Catholic Church, they don't consider it a mortal sin. I've heard stories that the people going to confession for masturbation, and the priest saying, no, you don't have to go to confession for this. It's not a mortal sin. It's not bad in the way you're thinking.
It's just a minor sin.
Yeah.
And we don't really care about minor sins in Roman Catholicism?
It's like a white lie.
Yeah. You're going to be a atheist soon.
No. You would have to disprove God.
I can disprove your God. I know your God doesn't exist, Xavier. Did we already talk about this?
No, we did. I think we did.
We did.
But this has nothing to do with the Christian nationalism, though.
No. but I do believe I can. I'll even use the word prove. And like if Christians, if Catholics say I know God exists, then they're being hypocritical if I can't say I know God doesn't. And the strongest evidence that your God specifically does not exist, the evidence is all around us. Wow. Our universe is evidence your God doesn't exist. Look at that tree. You see the tree outside? Evidence God doesn't exist.
Okay. What about the miraculous encounters?
You're a little quiet, by the way.
Virgin Mary? I'm sorry?
You're a little quiet, by the way.
Oh. How about now?
Do you understand why a guy like me doesn't find that powerful at all?
Yeah, like we're not going to convince you that these certain things are immoral.
No, I'm talking about, you mentioned like the Mother Mary visions and stuff.
Apparitions.
Yeah. Apparitions. Like I think you get why a guy like me would just poo-poo that, right?
You can't scientifically verify it, but the Vatican verified it.
The Vatican verified it.
They verified and thousands of people saw the same thing.
Thousands of people saw the Statue of Liberty disappear when David Copperfield did his trick. Maybe not thousands, but it's
It
hundreds.
was documented by Rene Laurentine.
The Quran's documented.
By that standard, I mean, how do you know you exist?
You notice what you did there, Xavier?
I know.
Yeah, it's like that's a cheap shot. That's like
It is. It was.
yeah, it's a philosophical little game you're playing.
It was sophistry.
But you know what would change my mind? And I think you've heard me say this. That it has to be something major, breaks the laws of physics at the name of Jesus, and people can see it with their own eyes and verify it. And announce ahead of time, so we can actually set up testing conditions to actually see if it's a trick or not, to see if it did in fact break the known laws of nature. Like if your God was to say, next week, this time, go to this grave site, this person who's been dead for 25 years is going to come back to life, get Muslims, Jews, atheists, Hindus, agnostics, everybody goes to the graveside, get cameras, whatever you need, medical records to show that this person did indeed die. You can even dig the coffin up beforehand, make sure the body's in there, and then rebury it. And then God comes around that Monday morning and raises that person from the dead. My whole worldview is shattered at that point.
Wow.
But
the closest thing to that is the resurrection, but it wasn't. It was kind of sort of announced ahead of time too, but
yeah,
that's a lot of verification.
I don't believe it was announced ahead of time. Can you guess why I say that? Or yeah, why do I say that?
No, I've heard the arguments. I've
Yeah.
heard the arguments. These passages are taken out of context.
No, it's not. It's these passages were written decades after, saying a guy predicted his death and resurrection.
Right.
Yeah. You need like extreme faith to believe that Jesus said everything he is reported to have said in the New Testament. Extreme faith.
But if you falsify that, and you falsify a good God, you haven't falsified the concept of God, period.
That's true.
You falsified certain gods.
That's true, but this is why I understand what you're
issue.
saying, but this is why I say I know no gods exist, because any gods that I'm talking about are gods that people believe in. If you imagine some nebulous, undefined God that's unfalsifiable, you cannot make a knowledge claim on it. You can't falsify it. So when I say I know no gods exist, I'm talking about I know that Hindu doesn't exist, Vishnu doesn't exist, Ganesh, Yahweh, Allah. That's what I'm saying.
I got one for you. Do ants know that we exist?
Ants?
Or I'm sorry, bacteria. Do bacteria know that we exist?
No.
They can't falsify us. They can't verify us.
That's right.
They have no idea that we even exist. So there might be a higher being that is outside of our universe, because we haven't been to the outside of our universe. Just like there are bacteria have no idea what we are.
Sure, I'll give you that, but the thing is, why even entertain that idea? Like, you're basically saying anything that's not logically impossible could exist. So
True.
a Tesla with wings that's purple and could be flying around 3 billion light years away from here. I mean, that's not logically impossible, but why would we even entertain that idea?
Because civilization has always believed in God or gods. Like it's universal. It's a universal human experience, and religious experiences are universal throughout multiple cultures throughout centuries. Like it's not just like 1% of the population. The vast majority of humans who have ever existed have believed in some kind of divinity.
And what would be my response to that? Do you know?
No, this I have not heard.
Okay, so my response to that is this is what has helped us survive and make more productive societies. So, for example, if you are just you and another person are in the woods hunting and gathering, and nobody else is around, and that guy mouths off to you, and you pick up a stone and kill them, you can go back to the tribe and say, "Oh, he fell and hit his head on a rock." But if you believe in a God, it might actually stop you from murdering because God's watching. But if you don't believe in a God, nobody's watching, and you think you can get away with it, then you would do it. So this is why humans have developed these God concepts, and it's even in other primates like gorillas. If you go to the zoo, there will always be a silverback within that tribe of gorillas, and you can actually watch the gorillas get in fights, and guess what happens? The silverback steps in and keeps the peace, helps the tribe be civil with each other. And whatever the silverback does, leads, the tribe will follow. So we humans are just like gorillas, except we made our silverback invisible for those who are theists. Because it's easier that way.
Okay. You've explained the natural evolution of religious belief.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that the genetic fallacy?
Why?
That's how we discovered it.
I'm giving an explanation. I'm giving an explanation of why we have religious experiences that you talked about. And to me, my explanation seems very reasonable to explain
I agree.
Because you would even admit that believing in God is good for society, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Even, do you believe that believing in a false God is good for society?
Potentially, yeah.
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 Yeah. So you and I are very much agreed. I believe that your God is a false God. But it still can be good for society. There's many great things that Roman Catholics have done for the world. There's many bad things too. But I'm not going to poo-poo all the great things. My children were born in Roman Catholic hospitals, basically.
Right.
St. Joseph's and St. Mary's. Was it St. Mary's? Yeah.
Yeah. Reza Aslan gave he proposed an anthropology, a theory of anthropologists that religion is what created civilization. It's what created enough social order and organization to just start creating like cities built around temples or something like that.
What I struggle with is, like, I tend to be a type of atheist who agrees with the idea that you should be good for goodness sake and not because someone's watching. But there are some people out there, I think, that religion is good for them, where they won't do good for goodness sake, and they need that threat. I think there's many people out there who need a rule book and threats and promise of rewards to do the right thing. But you and I, Xavier, we're beyond that. We can sort of, I hate to admit I'm partly a virtue ethicist, but we can see I should do good for goodness sake. Actually, you know what? I take that back. I do good things because I know it will benefit me and society. If society is benefited, then I'm going to be benefited. Rising tide raises all boats. And so I can even admit to you that I'm selfish and that I won't do bad things because I know in the long run, hopefully, it will benefit me.
Have you ever heard of? I agree with all that. Those are very good points about why you should even keep it, even if you falsified it. And if you falsified it, why do millions still believe it? It's like we were like evolution can explain religion just fine.
Yep.
You ever heard of John Shelby Spong?
Yep.
I read his book Eternal Life, and he debunks the Christian God, any Christian conception of God. And I thought, okay, that'd be the end of the book. Atheist now. But then he goes into a transpersonal theology. Like God is not immoral or moral. He's just amoral. It's just nature itself. We're just deifying nature. He doesn't give up on God.
Well, he's defining God as nature.
Essentially.
He's a pantheist, naturalistic pantheist.
There you go. We can't get it out of us, can we?
Yeah, but he's basically an atheist, right?
He says no. He says he was a bishop of the Episcopalian Church to his death.
I know, but just because you're a member of a church doesn't mean you're a Christian.
Yeah.
Like if he were here right today and I asked him, "Do you believe Jesus is God, died for your sins, and rose the third day?" Do you think he'd say yes? No.
He would say no.
Yeah. He's in hell right now, according to the Roman Catholics. Because he
That's
knew
true.
he had a clear presentation of the gospel and he rejected it.
He believes the resurrection, something happened which caused the disciples to have visionary experiences.
Yeah, it's called grief hallucination.
He doesn't say that, but yeah.
And my guess is it only happened to one or two people. And then
Enough people to spread it to millions.
But the New Testament is basically a type of propaganda piece to promote a greater good idea that heaven is real, that heaven's coming, and all you poor Jews have been persecuted by the Romans. Fear not, the end is coming soon, and everything will be made right. And they use the charismatic teacher from the Essene movement named Jesus to promote that greater good idea. And whether Jesus, I really doubt Jesus even had 12 disciples. I definitely doubt all the stories in the Gospels of what Jesus did and said. But was there a real guy who walked around? Yeah. Did he have followers? Yeah. So Christianity,
that happens today.
Yeah, and so you can explain the whole New Testament without a resurrection.
You could. Bart Ehrman did in his book, something about how Jesus became God. But all these religions, still miracles, still myths, still. Do you think they could be pointing at something that we just can't?
Yeah, it's pointing
pinpoint. Yeah, it's pointing at a higher thing that we just don't know yet.
No, I don't think it's pointing to a higher thing other than people's desire for hope, meaning, and purpose, and people not liking pain and desperation and oppression. It's pointing at people's way to cope. It's pointing to a way for people to just survive. That's what it's pointing to. And it was a perfect moment in history where the Romans were oppressing the Jews. The Jews had been oppressed all throughout history, and yet they believed they were God's chosen people. They couldn't make sense of it. It was a way for some Jews to change Judaism into Christianity to make sense of it all. So let me ask you this. Let's wrap it up. This is the most important question I'm going to ask you. Do you believe Jesus is God, died, and rose the third day?
I do.
Okay. Myron, I wasted an hour on this guy.
Even if we're wrong, even if the language is wrong, even if it wasn't a resurrection, even if it wasn't, everything you're right, scholarship points to that, and the Bible has flaws, and I do see it has flaws. I think I believe something happened in that day.
Well, hang on. Saying you believe something happened and saying I believe a man rose from the dead are two different things.
Something mysterious, and they just called it resurrection because that's all the language they had.
Something mysterious, and they called it resurrection. Let me ask you again, and be honest, it's just me and you here. Everybody's left. Do you believe 2,000 years ago that a man actually died and rose the third day bodily, named Jesus, who was also God? Do you believe that? That it actually happened? That if we had our video cameras, you and I, with our smartphones, we see, okay, there's a guy died. Oh, okay, there's a Joseph of Arimathea. Oh, he put him in a tomb. Oh, there's a stone there. Okay, and we just...
Only the disciples could see it.
Do you believe that that stone was rolled away, and on the third day, this dead man rose from the dead and was God in flesh?
Literally.
Literally, because I'm talking about smartphone recording it. Literally.
Probably not.
See, Myron? Yeah, he wasn't hopeless.
All right.
Now what are you going to do?
Raise my family by Christian values because it's still good, but
You know what?
keep it to myself.
You know what? I appreciate that answer. I'm sure you're going to raise wonderful kids, productive members of society, and I have zero problem. You sound like a great guy who would never, abuse people or hurt people. Yeah, I have my wife's a Christian. She's helped me raise beautiful, wonderful kids, and I'm quite confident you'll do the same.
Mine too.
Just let them know that.
Just don't take it literally. I get.
Yeah, just let your kids let your kids know it's okay to have fun.
That's a good advice.
But keep the pants on until you're married.
Have more fun than we did, but don't go crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Take care, Xavier.
Have a good one, PineCreek. Bye.
See ya. I know he was a little quiet there, but hopefully you guys could hear him. But when the rubber hits the road, I think he doubts, doesn't believe. And it's okay not to believe, Xavier. Don't be fearful that you've admitted this publicly. You'll be fine. You'll be okay. You're not going to be smitten by God. You're not going to, even if God exists out there, he's not going to kill you for saying what you sincerely, honestly believe or don't believe. Doing the Lord's work. Good one, Darkin. When the rubber hits the road. I was talking about tires. Tires. Man, these atheists are sick. Always sex on their brain. Just hedonists, these atheists are. Don't be like these atheists, Xavier. Stay pure in your thoughts. Don't be like Sasha. PineCreek just did the impossible. No. I've talked to Xavier, this is the second or third time. He's a very reasonable guy. And the reason why that conversation went well, in my opinion, is because I feel like I compromised with him. I agreed with a lot of the principles and ideas he has. That we can actually come together, naturalists, Roman Catholic, and agree, like, we don't want our kids, young adults, having unwanted children and sleeping around and getting STDs. Disease is bad. Unwanted kids are bad. We can agree on these things. So it's give and take. And the Lord said, poof, not drown. My apologies to Andrew from the Crucible. He was scheduled to come on, but we ran out of time.